The air crackled with unspoken words as I stumbled upon a scene that shattered my world. Two figures entwined in the dim light, laughter and secrets clashing like thunder. My heart twisted, caught between love's warmth and the icy grip of betrayal. How could the dance of the familiar lead to such unforeseen darkness? Would I rise to reclaim what was mine or remain a shadow in someone else's tale? In the heart of a small American town called Maplewood, life appeared to drift comfortably on the surface, like a gentle breeze rustling the leaves of elm trees lining the streets. The sun dipped low, bathing the town in golden light, highlighting the rustic charm of its brick buildings and cozy corners like the local diner, Billy's, where laughter mingled with the scent of freshly brewed coffee and homemade pie. In this community of familiar faces and shared stories, I often found solace in the simplicity of our daily routines. It was a world I'd come to embrace. My wife, Lisa, by my side, everything seemed idyllic. Lisa was the heartbeat of my existence. With her warm brown eyes and an infectious smile, she lit up every room she entered. There was a gentle charm about her that had always drawn people in, a mix of kindness and humor that made ordinary conversations feel profound. It was these qualities that had, for years, painted the backdrop of our lives together. Each day spent in her presence had solidified my admiration for her. Married for over a decade, we had built a comfortable, unwavering bond that felt as secure as the leather couch in our living room. However, beneath the tranquility ran undercurrents I had yet to discern. My own world was painted in strokes of normality, an average guy in his 40s, held together by the threads of my job at a local marketing firm and the companionship of my remarkable wife. That was until Frank, my charismatic boss, strolled into our office like a gust of wind challenging the calm. He embodied everything I was not: his snazzy suits, charming bravado, and prolific network gave him an aura of power that attracted attention like moths to a flame. Frank held title and influence, manipulating circumstances to his advantage effortlessly, all with a disarming smile. Watching him, I was often reminded of the biblical giant, a figure whose mere presence left me feeling considerably smaller. The office dynamics shifted subtly but strikingly after Frank's arrival. Though I prided myself on my integrity and loyalty, there was an unsettling charisma about him that swept many, including Lisa, into his orbit. Our small town had become a canvas for his grandiose visions, where all could play their part. But soon I began to sense an undeniable change, a shift. Connections and whispers echoed in hallways where laughter used to ring clear. I often witnessed Frank's brash teasing, discovering lingering glances exchanged with Lisa, innocent at first, but enough to send unexpected jolts of doubt coursing through me. The tension began to surface in the most casual of ways. One Friday night at a gathering Frank hosted for a work project, I couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper than mere friendship had taken root between him and Lisa. As the evening progressed, I noticed how they'd laugh a beat longer than necessary, how Frank would lean in just a little closer when he spoke to her. The warmth in her smile took on a different hue, a spark I hadn't seen before, setting my heart pounding with a mix of anxiety and unwanted jealousy that threatened to suffocate me. Relax, Jason. They're just being friendly. Frank's like that with everyone, Lisa reassured me later that night, curling into me as we lay in bed. Yet even as she said it, the soft rhythm of her voice was laced with an undertone of uncertainty that lingered in the air. Yeah, friendly, I replied, trying to mask the bitterness that seeped into my words. My heart raced with raw feelings I didn't want to face. Fear clawed at my insides as I pushed my insecurities aside. What had changed? Why did I suddenly feel like an outsider in my own life? As days turned into weeks, the once simple occurrences accumulated into a thick fog of unease, saturating my thoughts as I came home to the scent of her perfume drifting through the air, stirring a pit in my stomach. I had built my life on trust and partnership, but now the very essence of it felt threatened by a looming giant whose intentions were unclear. I grappled with the conflicting emotions of vulnerability and anger, slicked with the self-inflicted isolation I found in those silent moments after each encounter with Frank and Lisa, muffled echoes of laughter dancing just beyond reach, taunting my reality. I felt trapped in a game I had not signed up for, vulnerable yet resolute, grappling with shadows of fear as they intimated the conflicts ahead. Little did I know, my journey into the heart of betrayal and personal growth was just beginning, with an unforeseen reckoning on the horizon. The sun was setting over Maplewood, casting a golden hue across the quaint town that felt like an extension of my own heart. The main street, lined with twin rows of weathered, clapboard houses, reflected the warmth of the community, each home brimming with stories, laughter, and the delicious aroma of home-cooked meals wafting into the air like a sweet embrace. As Lisa and I strolled hand in hand toward our favorite diner, the Williams Cafe, our laughter intertwined with the sounds of children playing in the park nearby, and the sizzling of burgers grilling on the outdoor grill. I could almost taste the familiar crispy fries and thick milkshakes as we stepped onto the porch, the creaking floorboards welcoming us back home. Inside the cafe, the walls were adorned with vintage photographs that chronicled the history of Maplewood, each image a reminder of the bonds that held our little town together. The evening light filtered through the windows, casting striped shadows on the polished wooden surfaces, while the clatter of plates and chatter of customers created a comforting soundtrack. It was a refuge enveloped in nostalgia and simplicity, an ideal backdrop for our ordinary yet fulfilling life. As we settled into our usual corner booth, Lisa's spirited energy filled the space. "How about a round of shakes, love?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with mischief. I chuckled, knowing how her playful nature always kept our evenings vibrant. "Only if I get the chocolate fudge, which I'll have to share," I replied, leaning in closer, feeling the warmth radiate between us. Our evening unfolded organically, small talk mingling with playful teasing until a sudden reminder of the outside world interrupted our bubble. Frank, my boss, a magnetic hurricane who could charm the pants off anyone, had organized an impromptu office gathering for the following Friday evening. The invitation had seemed harmless at first, a casual get-together meant to foster camaraderie. But as I mentioned it over our milkshakes, I felt an unease creeping in. "I saw Frank today at the printer, and he mentioned it," I said, attempting to keep the words nonchalant. "Sounds fun. You know how I like socializing," Lisa replied with genuine excitement, her fingers brushing against mine lightly, igniting an electric spark. But there was a flicker of anxiousness tucked away behind those bright eyes that I didn't want to acknowledge. The night of the gathering arrived, and the office buzzed with jovial energy. Laughter echoed off the walls as beer flowed freely. Laid-back conversations filled the spaces between us like cotton candy clouds. Frank stood at the center, his confidence commanding attention, weaving effortlessly through the crowd, every laugh a little too loud, every joke a little too personal. I watched, my heart in my throat, as he leaned in closer to Lisa during an exchange, his charismatic smile disarming her. "It's just friendly," I reassured myself, but the moment his fingers brushed against her arm, igniting that spark of connection, I felt a flame of discomfort start to smolder deep within. Was it merely a figment of my imagination? The lingering glances they shared, the way Lisa's laughter seemed brighter whenever Frank spoke, it was all too disarming. Later in the evening, I spotted them standing just a little too close by the snack table, their playful banter drifting through the air like whispers, punctuated by her infectious giggles. The way Frank's demeanor shifted, more daring and teasing, made everything inside me twist with doubt. I felt like an outsider peeking through a window, witnessing a dance I hadn't been invited to join, and the realization was visceral, an icy grip around my heart. "No big deal," I murmured, trying to shake off the feeling. Nothing was wrong, nothing at all. I meandered through the gathering, trying to drown my insecurities in the chatter of coworkers, but my gaze kept returning to them, circling like a moth drawn to a flickering flame. Lisa's eyes sparkled as she spoke with Frank, her hand grazing his shoulder, a fleeting touch yet suffused with intimacy. Anger simmered within me, fighting against the fondness I held for her. I could feel my pulse quicken, a primal instinct flaring up as thoughts cascaded, muddying the clarity of our life together. Suddenly, laughter erupted. I turned just in time to see them share an almost flirtatious glance. At that moment, it struck me. My ideal world was beginning to fracture. The betrayal loomed just beneath the surface of our shared laughter, quietly threatening to drown the love I was desperately trying to protect. Uncertainty spilled through me. Was this going to be the night my crush shifted into something much darker? I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that. As I stood there, the hollow ache in my chest twisted deeper with each passing moment. After weeks of simmering emotions, anger, and an insidious feeling of betrayal, everything twisted into sharp focus that night at Frank's annual summer party. Each laughter echoed in my ears, reminding me of how out of place I felt among the throngs of people who revered him. Frank was the life of the party, towering above us, both physically and socially, with his golden tan skin stretched taut over muscles honed from years at the gym. The way he carried himself exuded an air of confidence that almost felt suffocating to my average frame. When my gaze fell on Lisa, radiant as ever, dressed in a flowy sundress that danced with the wind, I felt a pang of admiration mixed with something more sinister. Fear. Her laughter rang like wind chimes, enchanting the crowd while I stood in the shadows, feeling smaller by the minute. That's when I saw it. The way Frank leaned in closer, his fingers brushing against the strap of her dress, the intimacy in his gaze as they shared a smile. My stomach churned. I had heard whispers before, office jokes, the casual teasing that burrowed under my skin, but seeing it in action was a different, rawer pain. Each laugh that escaped her lips blended with my rising resentment, turning into a cocktail of jealousy and misplaced blame. Later that evening, the music from the party faded, and I stepped on the patio, desperate for fresh air. The moonlight painted everything in silver, yet none of it eased the burning sensations gnawing at my insides. My friends were gathered nearby, Tim, Lara, and Ben, huddled over drinks, trying to draw me in with jokes, but my mind was elsewhere. "Jason, you good?" Tim asked, concern evident in his voice. I forced a nod, but the distraction was palpable. All I could think about was how every time Frank laughed, my wife's laughter seemed to echo back, as if giving him power over her, over me. "I just need a moment," I told them, my tone heavier than intended. "Don't let that clown get to you. He's all bravado." Ben chimed in, trying to lighten the mood. Yet, his words fell flat, only reinforcing my insecurities. It was easier said than done. I couldn't shake the feeling that Frank was pulling my strings like a puppet master, throwing me into a circus of humiliation. I turned back inside, intent on confronting my fears rather than letting them conquer me. With each step, the atmosphere pulsed with energy, voices and laughter blending together like a boisterous symphony. I approached Lisa, who was now animatedly engaged in a conversation with Frank. They didn't even notice me looming behind, flames of discomfort crackling within me. "Hey, Lisa," I called out, attempting to summon some courage. "Yes, darling?" She turned so brightly, her smile melting the tension, at least momentarily. "Can we talk?" I was sure my voice trembled slightly, but she nodded, her features shifting from delight to concern. We stepped outside, away from the clamor. I could feel my heart drumming, echoing that last frantic rhythm of uncertainty. "What's wrong?" Lisa asked, leaning against the railing, the stars twinkling like distant conspirators. "There's something bothering me," I started, each word creeping out slowly. "It's Frank. I can't shake this feeling." I hesitated, unsure how to put my swirling thoughts into something coherent. "Babe, what do you mean?" she responded, her brow furrowed. "Just, you seem to enjoy his company a little too much. I can't help but wonder." My voice trailed off, seeing her expression darken. "Jason, don't do this. You're overthinking things," she said, annoyance creeping into her tone. "I only want to protect our marriage." As soon as those words left my mouth, I could feel rage coiling within, rooting itself deeper inside me. The tension between us thickened, an invisible wall crafted of doubt tainted by insecurities. But then, she softened, reaching for my hand. "You know me, Jason. I love you. Frank is just charming. It doesn't mean anything." Her touch sent a shiver down my spine. Her fingers were always a balm, yet now I could feel only an electric current between us, a tension that was as exhilarating as it was disheartening. And then, unexpectedly, came a breeze that seemed to bring back memories of better days. I leaned in, pulling her closer, feeling the warmth of her skin spill into my own. Her breath hitched, and I couldn't resist any longer. I kissed her, intense and fervent, a kiss that spoke of longing. That moment was electric, our lips melting together, finally igniting the feel of vulnerability I had tried to dismiss. But just as fast, my senses sharpened. I pulled back suddenly, taking a deep breath and turning towards the door. But all I could see were shadows, dark figures peering around the corner. My instincts flared as I turned abruptly, my eyes widening in disbelief. Frank emerged from the darkness with an amused smirk, a bottle of wine dangling from his fingertips. "Am I interrupting something?" he taunted, a sly grin playing on his lips. My heart raced, a mix of frustration and inadequacy bubbling to the surface. Anger surged through my veins, forcing every ounce of resolve within me to surge forward. "Get away from her," I spat out, each word dripping with contempt. He raised an eyebrow, a mirthful expression settling into amusement, ignoring my fury like water off a duck's back. Lisa stepped slightly behind me, her presence solid, yet somehow fragile, as if the wind might sweep her away. "Jason, please." Lisa reached out, trying to calm me, but my focus remained fixed on Frank, whose stature towered over mine. I could feel the impending confrontation looming closer, each heartbeat echoing the importance of what was to come. A silence engulfed the air between us, thick enough to cut, and I realized this was no longer about just me. It was about her, our love, and my fight for both. Would I step into the ring, ready to lay everything on the line against a man much grander than myself? The question hung heavy in the air, unresolved as the night churned forward, setting the stage for what was about to become an explosive climax. Would I allow the Goliath to define my life, or would I cradle the heart of my small town and the love of my life, standing tall in the face of his bullying spur? It was the fight of my life, and I was ready to finally confront it. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting an unsettling glow in the small, cavernous office space where tension filled the air like a heavy mist. I had waited for this moment, gathered all the courage I could muster, and now here I was, face to face with Goliath himself, Frank. The man stood tall and imposing near his desk, a smug grin playing at the corners of his mouth, unaware of the storm brewing inside me. "Jason, didn't expect to see you here," he said, leaning back casually. The confidence in his voice was infuriating, especially considering what I'd recently found out. The thought of Lisa's unguarded laughter, of her joy, mingling with his arrogance made my stomach churn. Funny, I didn't expect to have to confront my boss about his inappropriate behavior either. I shot back, my voice surprisingly steady despite the tight coil of anger within me. "You think this is some game, don't you?" He raised an eyebrow, the grin morphing into a mock expression of innocence. "What are you talking about, Jason? We were just having fun. Nothing serious." "Fun?" The word left my mouth like venom. "You kissed her. You were all over her, Frank. You manipulated interactions, and now you're pretending it's innocent?" My heart raced as I stepped closer, closing the gap between us. The reality of my vulnerability felt dangerous, yet oddly liberating. "I think you're overreacting," Frank replied coolly, attempting to diffuse my anger with dismissive ease. "Lisa is an adult. She knows how to handle herself." "Handle herself?" I nearly exploded. "Are you serious? You preyed on her. I watched you flirt with her like she was your toy, and to you, I'm just the inconsequential husband." I dug deep, clenching my fists at my sides, the weight of every emotion pushing me forward. This wasn't just about a kiss. It was about respect, integrity, the life I had built with Lisa, which he was so casually undermining. As my words hung in the air like a fragile thread, I saw it, a crack in Frank's facade. The composure wavered just a fraction, but then it returned, perhaps stronger, as he straightened his shoulders. "I'm the one who controls the narrative here, Jason. You think you can walk in and shake everything up? You really don't know your place, do you? That's where you're wrong." I took another purposeful step closer. Memories flooded my mind. Lisa's laughter at Saturday morning brunches, her comforting touch when my day had been hard, and the taste of her lips when everything felt perfect. My place is by her side, loving her, supporting her, and you're not gonna take that away from me. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. The anger felt like a wild flame, but somewhere beneath the heat surged the undeniable truth. This wasn't just about Lisa. It was about me standing up for myself, for what I believed in. "She deserves better than your condescending charm," I declared. At that moment, Frank hesitated, perhaps caught off guard by the fire in my voice. "You're just jealous," he accused sharply, his composure slipping further. "Of you? No, I feel pity for you." I leaned in closer, the challenge in my voice echoed in my chest. "What kind of man preys on another man's wife? What are you so afraid of, Frank? That you'll be seen as less than perfect?" Standing face to face, I noted the struggle dancing behind his confident blue eyes. Fear, vulnerability. He was human beneath the layer of manipulation, and for the first time, I was no longer intimidated by his facade. "Is that how you see me?" he challenged, the growl in his voice betraying the anger roiling beneath his skin. "You think you know the real me?" "I think I know enough," I replied, the conviction growing stronger. Being a bully doesn't make you powerful, it makes you weak. In that charged moment, a flood of memories washed over me. I could almost feel Lisa's warmth beside me, the way she melted into my embrace after a long day, the depth of our connection that transcended mere attraction. I recalled the night we first kissed, the way my heart raced, the scent of her perfume lingering in the air, and how our lips collided in an explosion of pent-up desire. That kiss meant everything to me, Frank, and you're trying to tarnish it." His chuckle broke the intensity, almost mocking. "What do you really think will happen now? You honestly believe this will change anything?" Suddenly, the distant sound of footsteps echoed from the hall, breaking the bubble of our confrontation. I turned instinctively toward the noise, and when I turned back, Frank's bravado faded, just for a heartbeat. "I think this changes everything," I said with newfound ownership of the situation. My heart raced, but I wasn't merely angry. I was resolute, and I felt a rush of strength I had never known. As I stood there, I realized I had already won something vital. I wasn't just fighting for Lisa. I was dismantling every preconceived notion about myself Frank had stitched into our lives. As I moved past him, I felt the weight lift, my resolve settling firmly in my chest. I wouldn't escape this unscathed, but I was no longer merely an underdog. I was ready to stand tall. And in standing up to Frank, I had found a voice, the voice of Jason, not the average guy, but a man committed to integrity. Little did I know, this confrontation would redefine everything for both Lisa and me, something just beyond the reach of this moment, bleeding into our futures as we began to understand what love really meant. As dawn broke over the small town, casting a warm glow through our bedroom window, I found myself lying next to Lisa, acutely aware of the confrontation that had reshaped our lives. The memories of the night before, the arguments, the raw emotion, and the undeniable truths lingered in the air like a heavy fog. I turned to her, witnessing the slight furrow in her brow as she slept, haunted perhaps by the shadows of our recent turmoil. "Jason," she murmured as she stirred awake, her voice thick with sleep. The sound drew me in, grounding me amidst the whirlwind of emotions. I gently brushed a strand of hair from her face, feeling the warmth of her skin against my fingers. If anything remained constant, it was the love between us, tested but still flickering like a candle flame against the wind. "I'm here," I whispered, my voice barely above a breath. Our eyes met, and in that simple exchange, I felt the weight of both our fears and our hopes. It was then, as I watched her absorb the reality of our situation, that I recognized the tremors of guilt and remorse behind her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Jason. I never meant to hurt you," she said, voice quaking with emotion. Her honesty cut straight to the heart of the matter, and the air between us crackled with the remnants of heartache and vulnerability. I nodded, allowing the sincerity of her words to wash over me. "We both made mistakes, Lisa. I should have trusted you more," I replied, my heart clenching at the thought of our recent struggles. The betrayal felt overwhelming, but I realized that healing would not come through dwelling on the pain, but by confronting it together. "Can we navigate this? I want to rebuild what we had," I said, my voice steady despite the tumult of emotions swirling within. "I need to know that we can work through our insecurities together." Time seemed to slow as she searched my eyes, assessing the depths of my resolve. "I want that too," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I love you, Jason. I want us to be stronger." And in that fragile yet transformative moment, I understood that love wasn't perfection. It was growth through pain. Together, we resolved to dismantle the walls we'd built, brick by brick, exposing the foundation that once stood strong with trust and devotion. As the days turned into weeks, we began to embrace the community around us. Friends who had rallied in my corner offered their support, and it felt as if the world beyond our struggles was full of light again. We started hosting weekly dinners to reconnect with those who mattered. The laughter, the stories, and the shared silence healing the wounds that had sprawled between us. Time continued its march, and with each sunrise, I grew more confident in battling my inner demons. I learned that true power resides not in dominance or charm, but in vulnerability and the willingness to embrace one another's flaws. Frank, the formidable shadow that had loomed over us, faded into a lesson of resilience rather than a mark of failure. I caught Lisa's gaze often, each glance a silent vow, and each shared smile a reminder of our commitment to growth. We were not the same people we had been. We were stronger, braver, and beautifully imperfect. Thus, we stepped into the future hand in hand, leaving the past behind, but carrying forward the wisdom it imparted, a testament to the power of love and the unbreakable bond we nurtured together.